Friday night was a record-breaking night at the People's Bank Arena for the UConn Huskies. How historic was it? We'll talk about it next, right here on How About Them Huskies. Welcome to episode 142 of How About Them Huskies. As always, I'm your host, Connor, joined by just Andrew today. And as I mentioned in the open, a very historic record-breaking night at the People's Bank Arena on Friday when UConn hosted and took down UMass Lowell. The final score 110 to 47, but they led by more than that for a good part of the game, which is crazy to say. The historic part, I mean, amongst many other things, but the one thing that had never happened before that happened in this game, a 47-point halftime lead is the highest in UConn program history. And that's a pretty long time with a lot of games, especially with a lot of really good teams. They led by 50 at one point in the first half. It would have been a 50-point game before the Riverhawk player hit a three right around the buzzer to make it a 47-point game. But really just something that we've never seen before, which is weird to say because we've seen so many good teams. But what was your reaction as that was going on, Andrew? Because you look at the score, it's like, oh, it's 10-0. Oh, it's like 20-1. It's 30-2, something like that. It ended up being 44-3 is the biggest benchmark, I'd say, really early in the game.
Yeah, took down is an understatement. It's more like absolutely destroyed. This game was just, I feel like it was needed, and I feel like there's a lot of jokes going around about like, did Dan Hurley let them get out of the gym for 72 hours? Did he just lock the door and say, you guys are in here until Friday? Like, this was just a different, like, no matter who it's against, 110 to 47 is impressive against any Division One team. You've seen these smaller schools beat up on these Division twos and threes. That's not as impressive. But a Division One team like UMass Lowell, they're not, this god awful 350th ranked in the country team. They're pretty solid in the America East Conference. So to beat up on them like that, I feel like was needed, but was also pretty remarkable. It's just like felt like we could not miss a shot. It felt like we scored on every possession, and it felt like they just didn't want to score. I don't know. It was kind of a weird but needed and good game.
Yeah, I just looked it up. In the America East, UMass Lowell was picked fourth out of nine in the preseason poll and had a first place vote. So this isn't like a team that's, I mean, I'll use New Haven, a prototype of New Haven for an example. This isn't a team that's brand new to D1, has all these inexperienced players. This is a team that is expecting to compete for a spot in the NCAA tournament. And to do that, to them, that first half that leaked into the second half, it was a little closer in the second half compared to that first, but really not at all. I mean, it's almost hard to break the game like this down because everybody killed it. Seven Huskies finished in double figures. Jaden Ross had 8 points. We were one bucket away from having eight in double figures. I think the biggest story in this one we'll talk about probably majority of the time is TARRIS Reed. Of course, making his season debut. He looked dominant out there, and I didn't really know what to expect from him, having not played in a game yet this season, but he had 20 points, 12 rebounds in just 17 minutes. He had four block shots. Every time they went inside, either he was getting the rebound or he was swatting it away. I mean, what did you see from Terrace? I feel like health-wise, he looked healthy. He didn't really look like he was lingering at all. And production-wise, obviously, exactly what we're expecting from him.
Oh yeah, he looked fantastic. I feel like last game against New Haven definitely proves that James Duran just wanted to hold him out for precautionary reasons because he looked fantastic. Would he end up with 20 and 12? I believe 20
Yes.
points, 12 rebounds, if I'm correct. And that was in what, 17 minutes or something like that. So it's it's pretty crazy to see that, but at the same time, he just looks fantastic, and I feel like it's a big sign for what's to come because the main thing we had talked about from the first game with him not being out there is that we could not space the floor, and it happens anytime we lose our starting center. And it's not that Eric Ryba is any better or worse at helping space the floor, but when you have that big center that is a really big threat on the glass and you don't have him in a game, it's going to be tougher to space the floor because they're going to be focused on getting rebounds and taking up the lane. So I just think that he made an impact as soon as he was on the floor, and I think he's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and it was like men versus boys with Terrace down low. There was a couple of possessions, at least one. He caught it down low. He pump faked. No one even bothered jumping. So he literally looked around for a second, then laid the
I
ball
was
in.
so confused at that one. I was like, what is he
Like
doing?
they weren't even trying to guard him. He was just that dominant. He did have that one slip up. I don't know if you caught that when he missed that wide open dunk.
Yeah,
He just wanted another rebound, I think. But yeah, to your point about not having him in that New Haven game, I feel like in this one, Eric Ribo was able to play more freely. He didn't have to really be relied on for as much. Ribo only played 16 minutes, which I guess is only a couple minutes less than he played in that New Haven game. But he scored 11 points, 5 of 6 from the field. He had 5 rebounds. He is someone that kind of looked like what we expect him to be, and that was in the backup role. So I'm curious to see what happens with that. I know we mentioned at the end of last episode what we're going to do having 3 centers. We pretty much played like a 3 center rotation, which I wouldn't expect to do that in like these bigger games, but Dwayne Chroma he played 9 minutes. He had 2 points. He was in there. Maybe that's because Reed was on a bit of a minutes restriction. You don't want to kill Ryba. But yeah, I mean, inside is going to be a force for us as always. I feel like we're not going to lose that. We've had the dominant center duo for the past handful of years now, and this year it's going to continue with Reed and Ryba. But I'm impressed with how some of our guards played too, kind of segueing. Silas Damari is exactly what I thought he was going to be in this game. He's someone that he got a rebound and he was going coast to coast, beating everyone down the floor. He had 16 points, 7 assists, looked like that true point guard. Malachi Smith off the bench, 14 points. He hit 3 threes, and that's not even supposed to be his specialty. Which of those two guys do you think surprised you more with how they played in this one?
I think Smith, honestly, him shooting the three looked so weird. He kind of looked like Adama Sanogo shooting a three, where he would finish 2 feet above the. Obviously, he let it go beyond the line, but he'd finish way in front of that line because he was kind of more pushing it than just letting it out of his hand. And the one he got fouled on, he got mauled on that one. And I honestly thought he got hurt there, but thankfully he did not get hurt. But the three pointers for him was definitely a weird kind of like not like expectation, but a weird sight because he was the last person I'd expect to be shooting that many threes. You know, if he's wide open, I can see him taking one like Diarra used to, but shooting three and making three was just kind of a weird sight.
Yeah, because I feel like out of those two guys, you'd expect Silas to be a little better, but neither of them are here for their shooting. Solo Ball is here for shooting. He only took 2 threes. He scored 110 points, and Solo Ball went 1 for 2 from three, and he hit it pretty early, like within the first media timeout in the first couple minutes. He had 14. Alex Caravan had 13. You mentioned you thought Malachi Smith got injured on that 3-point attempt. Alex Caravan, I think, scared the entire state of
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut with how he landed on that dunk. It looked like he landed like on his face slash side. He ended up being okay. Hurley had a funny quote after the game. He's like, I ran over to him and asked him, "Are you in Hartford or Maui right now?" Just to just to see where he was mentally, but he was okay. He's someone that had 13. Who else was in double figures? Jalen Stewart starting once again had 10, and I think that's everyone in doubles. Yeah, as I mentioned, Jaden Ross had 8 points. There was a lot of awesome dunks in this one. Ross had a couple. Solo Ball had the steal that turned into the reverse dunk. That was to put us up 65, which is we're not probably going to say that again the rest of the year, even though we have some pretty easy games. That's one of the more, not once in a lifetime, but once in a season type games. But I mean, do you really have anything else from this one? Any plays or anything that stick out to you?
I mean, not really. It's just like a game that needed to happen. I feel like a beatdown. I kind of feel bad for UMass Lowell, honestly, but it was a beatdown that needed to happen to prove that this team is still very good after apparently some people thought that we weren't good enough against New Haven. I don't really understand that, but hopefully a 110-47 win is good enough for those people. And if it's not, then I don't know how to please them.
Yeah, I'm just scanning the box score here. I agree with you. I feel like this team played angry, like they thought they were bad because everyone was thinking maybe they're not as good because they let New Haven hang around. But Jalen Stewart had 6 assists and he had some nice finds in the paint, which is an area of his game I feel like I don't even want to call it underrated because it's really, I feel like in a way was underdeveloped, but he's clearly someone that can distribute the ball. I'm not expecting him to get really more than 2 or 3 assists in a game, but good to see him get 6 here. I have a weird feeling, and this doesn't matter. This is just like me thinking out loud here. I don't think Jacob Ross is playing this year. I think he's going to redshirt just because why would he not play in that game? I mean, you put in all of the other guys. You put in Euros, and they said his name, and I remember it's Paunovic. It's not Paunovic.
Paunovic, not
Paunovic.
Paunovic.
That's how the PA announcer pronounced it, Paunovic. He got
Okay.
in there. You saw
I guess
Ruzan and
that's what that little thingy above the U means
it
in his
must be.
name.
And Ruzan, they pronounced his name too. It's like Elijah or something. It's not Elizage, which I've been calling him, but we'll learn these guys' names as we go. He got in there. They each took a shot. Unfortunately, they couldn't fall. But yeah, with Jacob Ross, it makes sense if he's redshirting. Even if they don't formally announce it, I feel like this as someone that can help us practice, but he's not going to see the floor in any meaningful minutes this year. But I mean, I'm not saying he is. That's just what I have the vibes of right now because he didn't get into that game. But yeah, I really don't have anything else from this one. I mean, kept the foot on the gas the whole time. It was entertaining for the crowd. They hit 100 with like 9 minutes left or something like that, or maybe a little less because we only had 110. We didn't really go that poorly at the end. But yeah, I don't really have anything else from this game. We are going to talk about our Super Bowl tomorrow or tonight by the time you're listening to this. And if you don't know what that means, Dan Hurley called up this upcoming game, our next game against Columbia, UConn Super Bowl, because he's comparing how we played against New Haven to how Columbia played against New Haven on Friday. They handled them from start to finish. They were up like 28 at one point in the second half and just handled them. And obviously, we struggle a little bit more. So he thinks Columbia is the real deal, which maybe they are, probably not, but good to see him thinking that way. What's one thing? I mean, there weren't many negatives in this game, but what's one area that you want to see the team kind of either step up or improve from in this Columbia game, especially because you got to remember it's the last tune-up before the big one in Boston on Saturday.
This game it's not by any means a Super Bowl. I I can see why you said that, but I feel like Columbia is definitely the best of these three teams that we're playing. They're definitely going to give us a tougher game than UMass Lowell did, but I still would like to see the perimeter defense improve. I feel like even though it was better against UMass Lowell, I feel like the amount of shots that were a lot of them didn't fall because UMass Lowell just couldn't hit them, but just still the number of open shots and people running around on defense instead of sliding and flat. Like I don't know. Our perimeter defense I feel like still needs a little bit of work, and it feels weird saying that because we've given up 54 and 55 and 47 points. But if I were to nitpick one little thing that I think would definitely need to be elite against Columbia, it would be the perimeter defense.
Yeah, and I was at the Columbia New Haven game on Friday, and they were shooting pretty well from three. They finished 8 for 16. They started even hotter than that. They have a bunch of different guys that can shoot from the perimeter, a bunch of talented veteran guards, which maybe obviously we probably have more talented guards, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if you have the experience that almost trumps talent in some aspects. But yeah, they really have to limit the 3-point ball because they didn't really do too much else outside of that. They had some drives to the rim that they finished, but that's because New Haven doesn't have the greatest of rim protection inside. But yeah, I have to agree. I feel like defensively, you had this dominant performance. You had 13 steals, four by Silas, three by Malachi Smith. A bunch of other guys had one. You need to not just take another step back. I'm not saying if you don't have 13 steals, it's a failure, but I mean, you can't go back to like maybe some lackadaisical coverage on defense, giving up an open three because you're giving up on a play or something. It's really important because this is also film that like BYU is going to watch on you. They're going to see, oh, these guys they don't really try as much on defense, or they leak this way or that way. We can exploit that. You don't want that. You don't want to give them fuel because BYU, I assume, as much as we're ready for that game, they're even more ready because they're coming essentially to our turf with arguably the best player in the country. But yeah, I mean, this should be a fairly easy win. I mean, you never know in these days. But who's your player to watch for this Columbia game? Because there's so many players that need bounce back performances, I'd say.
Kind of a weird one because everyone was good in this UMass Lowell game. I'm gonna go with Silas because I want to see how he does on defense. You were at that game. Did their point guard shoot a lot?
Columbia,
Yeah.
kinda. It's Avery Brown who was pretty much their point guard. He's probably their best player, their most recognizable name. He's a smaller guy, so Silas should be able to handle him, but he hit a couple of threes, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Silas then.
Yeah, and I agree with you, it's a tough one. But I'm gonna go Eric Riba because we saw our first sample of what Reed and Ryba is going to look like, and that was with Terrace Reed being on a bit of a more minutes restriction. I believe Hurley said he's going to up it like 5 to 8 minutes from what it was, and he played 17, so we're probably looking at 20 to 25 minutes of Terrace Reed against Columbia, which means 15 to 20 minutes, even less if you have Chroma of Eric Ryba. Curious to see what he does in those minutes because we don't need him to score double figures. We need him to be a force inside when he's there. He did have a bit of a slow start. He picked it up in the second half. I'm just curious to see how he performs from the get-go off the bench because he's probably going to sub in pretty early. He subbed in early for Reed after he had that great sequence where Hurley was hyping up the crowd after he essentially dove into the stands to try to save a ball. But yeah, Eric Robb is definitely going to be my player to watch. You got anything else in this?
No, I just feel like it's going to be a different game than the first two. For the first one being a team's first game in Division One, obviously they're going to try to play as hard as they can, and then a second game being against a team that just doesn't even have a chance to beat us. I think we outscored them in the first 8.5 minutes of the game. So, but I feel like this one's going to be interesting. Not the fact that we'll lose, but I think it's just going to be much, much different from the first two.
Yeah, definitely much different. I mean, one more point on this UMass Lowell game. Eric Haslam, who does like all these metrics, I see him all over Twitter. He does this like analytically final thing where he determines what the score has to be at a certain minute for the game to be over. And this game was the earliest Division One versus Division One opponent game ever was analytically final. It was like 53 to 8 or something in the
I'm
first
pretty
half.
sure John Rothstein tweeted Dan Hurley, the Carpenter. If you follow him on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. I
Yes,
think he tweeted it with 12 minutes to go in the first half.
he did. Yeah, I
So he
love when he
does
does
it for
stuff like that.
everybody. He does it for, January, February, Izzo, April, May. Like he does it for everybody. But I like people were kind of like, this has to be the earliest John Rothstein's ever tweeted this. And I think it definitely was.
Yeah, at least for UConn, it definitely was. But yeah, it's just cool to see all these historic things coming from a game like this. But as for us up next, we'll definitely recap a bit of the Columbia game, but our next episode will probably mostly be focused on this BYU game and the matchups and all that because this is, like I said, the biggest game so far. We're also maybe trying, I'm not going to spoil who because it may not even happen. We're trying to secure an interview for you guys. It's been a little while since we've done that, so look for that on the horizon soon as well. It should be a pretty fun one if we can make it happen, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to. But yeah, so a lot of fun content with a big non-conference season right on the horizon. But until next time, thank you guys for watching and stay tuned.